Our team, in just over 6 years, has helped generate more than $26 million for nonprofits.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Whole Story Podcast. Jonathan, I'm just now noticing, both rocking a good blue color for our episode today. I've got the Bedrati Polo, you got the quarter zip. But yeah, man, we had a great conversation with Brian Schenk and Howie Hutchinson of the
Yeah.
Dormie Network Foundation. They are doing some incredible things in the game of golf.
Yeah, if you listen to our show, you are probably already heard of the Dormie Network because they've got quite the collection of extraordinary golf courses, golf experiences for people to go on trips with their buddies or just sort of end up on property and hang out. And yet maybe you've never heard, I know I hadn't, that they also have a foundation at the philanthropic side of it all that is really honestly incredible whenever you think about why and how they created it, and even almost like a business model of how they decided to approach it. So just incredible work that they're doing, the way that they support organizations all across the country, and then also where they hope to be going next. So what a good afternoon visit.
Yeah, it was great, and I think they've said they're about 28 million since 2000 that they've
Yeah.
helped raise for nonprofits, and assisting over 4,000 nonprofits. So really cool conversation with Brian and Howie. You guys are going to like it, and I encourage you, get involved, right?
Yeah.
Check them out. We'll have links in the show notes. Get involved. Figure out how you might be able to work with them. Maybe you have a favorite nonprofit of choice that you would like to connect. So they're using the game of golf for good, like many of the people we talked to are doing. But yeah, it was a really great chat. So before we get to that, many thanks to our friends at Summit Golf Brands. Again, the Bedrati Zero Restriction Fairway and Green. They make incredible apparel. We get to wear their stuff. We love working with these guys, Dan Drellinger, Billy Dratty, and many others. They do incredible stuff. And again, if you go to any of their websites and use BestBall20, you can get 20% off your order. There are a lot of things that you've heard us recommend and say that we like or our favorites. I think they keep changing over and over again. That's just because everything they make is really, really good. So check that out. Also, another quick little plug for the BestBall Golf Club. We're building a community, and we're doing it together with like-minded people that love the game of golf, but love the experience, kind of like you'll hear these guys talk about, love the experience of being with people while you're doing these things. So it's, again, the coffee in the morning before you play, the anticipation on the first tee while you're out there having a good chat, or even the post-round hang in the clubhouse or around a fire pit. That's what we're building at the BestBall Golf Club. Check out bestball.com. There's links there for what we're doing, and it's all about the hang with good people, right, Jonathan?
Yeah, and I mean, you and I used to play golf quite a lot together, but we've been able to get together with some new and old friends along the way. So over the next couple of weeks, we'll be hanging out with more of our good company folks.
Yeah, and people are spread out all over the country. So we'll just, whenever we travel, man, we're gonna find where our folks are and try to get together and tee it up, or just hang out and grab coffee like we did yesterday, right? We were hanging out,
Yep.
grabbing coffee with a couple of guys. We didn't end up playing golf with them, but it was just great to see them. So anyway, check that out. But let's get to our episode today with Brian and Howie of the Dormie Network Foundation. All right, our guest today on the Whole Story Podcast, Mr. Brian Schenk, Howie Hutchinson. Guys, how are we doing today?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having us on today.
Yeah, doing
Absolutely.
well.
Yeah, well, really excited to chat with you guys. As Jonathan and I mentioned in the introduction, y'all are with the Dormie Network Foundation. And I know a lot of people are extremely familiar with the Dormie Network and the incredible golf courses that you guys represent and have out in the U.S. But let's talk about the foundation today and all the good things that you guys are doing. But before we get to that, we like to talk with all our guests about how they got into golf. So Brian, Howie, y'all can flip a coin on who would start, but we want to hear, when did y'all first pick up clubs and get hooked on this game?
Yeah, I'll go first, Howie, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
I will be the first to admit golf was not on any radar that I had, especially getting into a career. And the last name is extremely reflective of the golf game. No offense to my friend Adam Schenk. He carries the name well. I do not. But I didn't really start playing golf until high school. Was gifted a set of clubs from my dad as a graduation gift, and was hacking along and just having fun with the game until really I got to Dormie Network. And the guys here said, yeah, you need to upgrade the equipment that you've got in that bag and let's start getting this game serious. So really 6 years for me, truly hitting the ball around and actually getting around the course pretty well.
It's been 6 years since you graduated high school, or 6 years
That's what I
since
heard
you?
too.
Yeah.
Negative. No, 6 years since I started at Dormie Network.
Very nice. Howie, how about yourself?
Yeah,
What's your story?
I think, one of the things I've learned is people assume that you work for the Dormie Network and you're a stick. And I'm very quick to tell people that it is my nonprofit background that got me this job and not my golf game. And I'm okay with that, but I love it. I love
It
the
sounds
game.
like you have a golf podcast too, because that's like Jonathan and I.
Right.
Yeah. I grew up as an athlete. I grew up in northern Maine where the golf season is about 2 weeks. And so there wasn't a lot of golf played in the town I grew up in. You'd hear about it. My grandparents played golf. They had a place in Palm Beach, and I actually remember a funny story of being at their house for Christmas with all my cousins, and we got remote control cars for Christmas. And then my grandfather found us driving them through the bunker that was out in the back of his house, and we got yelled at pretty bad for that. But, my career is in the nonprofit space. I've lived in Denver since 2007. And when I became an executive director, you start spending a lot of time with your donors. And one thing I've known for a while, and it's been reaffirmed through the work we do through the Dormie Network Foundation, is there's a high correlation of high net worth individuals, philanthropy, and golf. And so we hosted a golf tournament at the organization I ran and just started to have opportunities to play golf and get invited to play golf. And so I would say it was probably around 2017 or 2018 that I really started to seriously play. And by that, I mean, I would maybe get out for 5 to 8 rounds a year. But now I love it. I'm hooked. I have a lot of improving to do. I love to play. But definitely not a lifelong golfer.
Yeah.
What was your previous
Well, I was going to say, you make people feel better when you're out there with them and you let them win,
Yes.
right?
Exactly. Don't have to try too hard, but yes.
Yeah.
What was your previous nonprofit work in?
Yeah, so moved to Denver pretty much right after college, not knowing exactly what I wanted to do. And again, growing up kind of as an athlete, I wanted to do something with sports and kids, actually. And those were the terms that I put into my search engines when I was searching for jobs. And where that landed me was at Big Brothers Big Sisters initially, which is a pretty well-known organization nationally. And they had a sports buddies program in Denver that was trying to get more men involved with mentoring. And I just fell in love with the nonprofit space. I fell in love with this idea of creating space for people to connect. And that's really what mentoring is, which what they do. And that launched me into, I guess, the career that I'm in now. And so I went from there to Goodwill Industries of Denver, working in some youth career development programs. And then I was offered the opportunity to launch a chapter of an organization called Hope Kids, which now has 7 or 8 chapters, I think, around the country. But I was hired to be the executive director of the Colorado chapter. And that was a really fun experience. But that was where, we hosted a golf tournament. And as the, I guess, leader of the organization, was the one that spent a lot of time with donors, whether they were golfers or not. But yeah, great experience.
Very nice. Well, Brian, you mentioned you've been with the foundation for 6 years or so now. And I got to ask, like the chicken or egg thing, what came first? Like the collection of courses known as the Dormie Network or the foundation, or was it kind of a simultaneous thing?
No, that's a great question. So, the genesis of Dormie Network really started back in about 2015, where our owner and his parents were talking about his career path and what he wanted to do. And um, Zach was a collegiate golfer, loved the game, loved being in the golf space and the lifestyle. And really, they had the opportunity to acquire Arbor Links at that time. And, Zach and his folks were talking about, how great would it be to have a golf experience where hospitality is first and foremost, where your folks are coming for great golf, but they're coming back because of the way they're treated and fall in love with just being spoiled. And really, that's how things started, and they started to grow from there. So in 2016, Valley Hack was acquired out of Roanoke, Virginia. And then in pretty quick succession, Briggs Ranch was acquired in 2017 down in San Antonio, Texas. And then Dormie Club later on that year was also acquired. So sitting at 4 courses in a matter of 2 years, then picked up Victoria National in 2018. Hidden Creek came along in 2019 in Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey. And then our last piece of that puzzle was Grable was added into the mix in 2024. But the foundation, really the start of that conversation was in 2019. I was working for a nonprofit organization in leadership. I was managing fundraising for a couple states. And I received a LinkedIn message that said, "Hey, my boss is looking to start a foundation." And it was a young lady that I'd gone to grad school with. And she said, "Hey, would you have coffee with him?" And I was like, "You know what? I'm a nonprofit. I will take any free cup of coffee that I can get." And I was like, "Yeah, more than happy to give some bad advice." And so Zach and I sat down in what I thought was going to be probably a 30-minute conversation. And it turned into 2 hours of really brainstorming and talking about the importance of philanthropy to, himself and to his family, and how he wanted to have philanthropy really be the core of Dormie Network and any company that he was going to be involved with. And I was really impressed. He was probably 27 at the time when we first met. And so to be talking to a young guy who really wanted, that focus and that mission to be a part of what he was growing, it was something I was like, I can get behind something like this. And so after we got done talking for a couple hours, he's like, this is all great. I think it's a pretty solid plan. I was like, I know a ton of people in nonprofit that can help you out. More than happy to make that introduction. And Zach, being Zach, he laughed and said, "No, I think I want you to come do this for me." So it was, time really well invested on my behalf. I had never worked in a startup capacity nor in the golf industry. So I went home and talked to my wife, and she said, "You know what? I think if you pass on this opportunity, you'd be foolish." And she was 100% correct. So we got all of the contracting on our end lined up, and January 1st of 2020, I came on board and really just started looking at, what, as a young organization, how can we influence philanthropy for what we're trying to do and how we're trying to scale as an organization. And really what we had at our fingertips was, we had plenty of occupancy, so availability to get out to our courses, and we had memberships that we could actually donate. And so we packaged those two pieces together. We had what we call the stay and play. So 2 18-hole rounds of golf and 1 overnight cottage. All of our properties have 60 beds on site. So it made sense to be able to fill those beds that were open from an occupancy standpoint. And we also took a look at, donating memberships. And I should go back and underscore that, any product that we were putting together and putting out into the nonprofit space was actually free of charge to those nonprofit entities. Coming from the nonprofit space, much like Howie, we never wanted to say, we're going to charge any nonprofit $1 for these products. That was just not of interest to us. So we giving straight across the table to these organizations. And both of those products were extremely successful in that first year. Um, I I remember vividly my first day kind of pulling up my computer and having a blank screen and saying, okay, now what do we do? We got to build this thing. And first thing I did was just started emailing and picking up the phone to every nonprofit person I knew across the country and say, hey, how could you use this for your auctions that you have coming up? And most of them were skeptical, and we still have this skepticism to this day. It's too good to be true. Like, what is in it for you? And I was honest, it's like, honestly, there's really nothing in it for me. I'm trying to grow our brand, and we're trying to grow awareness of what we're trying to do. And as soon as people got over that, they're like, okay, we'll put it into our auction. So that was going smoothly. And then around March 13th of 2020, I was at the Players Championship. Ironically, I was watching the practice round, and Adam Schenk was coming around on 18. And I got a phone call from a buddy, and he said, you might want to get back to Nebraska. They're going to shut the state down. I said, okay. Didn't know anything about COVID. I had read a little bit about it and went to the airport, got on the airplane, and came back and was working from my house for the next year and a half, basically, after that. But what was cool was our nonprofit partners, they had that stark realization, like we all did, that we weren't going out, we weren't going to go public. And how is a nonprofit where majority of your fundraising is coming from one or two events a year, how are you going to make that up? And they were all extremely nimble and pivoted to an online format where they could still host some of their auction, probably not receive as much as they would without, Brian or Howie in the audience with a couple of beers in their hands, bidding something up. But they did well. And our product did extremely well in that online format. And so first year we raised about $1 million through those auctions for our nonprofit partners, which we thought was great. And as a business, we did about 10,000 room nights that year collective amongst our nonprofit folks that were coming to spend time with us as winners, as well as our traditional members and their guests. And we were popping champagne, thinking 10,000, that's pretty awesome. And what was unique was we took that concept and said, okay, we had all these eyeballs that came in through donation. What does that look like in year two? And so with our donated membership, their full year was covered. They didn't have greens fees. They didn't have dues. They didn't have cart fees. All they had to pay for was their cottage space and food and beverage and caddies. So going into year two was the real test and saying, we would love to invite you to continue on as a dues paying member to Dormie Network. Here's what our national dues look like. Would you be interested? And we had sold 154 donated memberships, and 52% of those folks said, yes, we want to continue on as dues paying. So we knew we had a business model where we could actually scale. And, every time those folks were coming out, they were spending money with us. And so we knew our revenue line, our heads and beds, was moving right in the fashion that we wanted it to move. So year 2 and 3, we were pretty steady. And Zach came to me and said, hey, we need to throw some gas on this fire and really scale this thing up. So I know a few folks out there, Howie being one of them, that I can invite to come join this party and see what happens. And he's like, let's do it. So we brought in 5 individuals onto our team. So we're a team of 6 now, working all across the United States, essentially hitting the phones and the email every day, working with nonprofits and getting our product into their hands for them to auction off and keep 100% of the proceeds. And what was amazing was, we were going from doing about 100 a year. When Howie and team came on, we did 300 back in 2023, which we thought was great. 24, we scaled that to 519 people that we brought on board. And then in 2025, we brought in 517. So in the matter of, I'll pick on the last 24 months or 48 months, bringing in 1,000 different individuals through nonprofits, um, that were all of that funding went to those nonprofits to come experience the Dormie Network and what makes us different and why we are, great at what we do has been awesome. And to continue to have a conversion metric of, 40 to 45% of those individuals staying on board with us, even past year 2 and 3 is incredible. And so we created this fun little business line for Dormie Network to help us scale. But the metric that I am most impressed with is our team in just over 6 years has helped generate more than $26 million for nonprofits. And
That's great.
not a lot of young organizations can really tout that they've been able to do that. And we do it on a consistent basis. So it's been a crazy fun adventure, and never thought that I'd be able to take philanthropy and really make that into an entrepreneurial type of role in what I do. And especially be able to do that in the game of golf, which Howie alluded to. We have the best marriage of, individuals that are giving. They want to support their communities. They want to support the nonprofits that they love, but they also want to come spend time with us and be spoiled. And we're truly, in my opinion, have one of the best golf experiences that you can have on the planet.
What does that look like
I mean,
for returning nonprofits? If I do an auction or something like that in 2025 for my fill in the blank event, is it an opportunity for me to come back in 26 and still be a part of that, of your organization and the foundation?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. So I have partners that, from day one back in 2020 that we're still helping with our auctions every year. Um, because this team has done so well, we've had to scale back that large number that we're doing over here with the in-kind side. But that's really how we're going to build into the future.
Hmm.
The way I look at it is all of these individuals where we've been, supporting these nonprofits, that's helping Howie, myself, our team build relationships with the nonprofit, learn more about their business, what their needs are, and where their gaps in funding are going to come, into the future years. Because of those relationships, we now have, it's probably been over 4,000 unique nonprofits that we've helped support in the past 6 years. From that group, they fit into 4 key pillars that is really going to be the future of the Dormie Network Foundation and the future of our focus. So, as I mentioned, we're turning down the dial per se with our in-kind giving. And while we're doing that, we are going to increase and turn up the dial on actually doing more cash granting out to organizations all across the United States. So, what I and the team have been challenged with is, okay, how do we go from supporting nonprofits, in the $8 to $10 million range year over year with in-kind product, and how do we turn that into $8 to $10 million in cash granting that's going out into these MPOs across the U.S. And so we've got a runway between now and 2030, which is our quote unquote moonshot, to be able to produce $1 million in cash revenue for nonprofits per property that Dormie Network has in portfolio. And so by 2030, in my estimation, we'll be between 8 and 10 clubs nationwide. And so we will still be in that $8 to $10 million range. But instead of it being in kind and being sold at auction, it's going to be nonprofit groups applying to the Dormie Network Foundation to receive funding and what I'm calling, our strategic investments in nonprofits that we care about and that we want to see grow, that fit within 4 key pillars for us. and that's going to be within the youth golf space, the environmental initiative space, military first responders, and then we've got a little bit of a catch-all between healthcare and humanitarian services.
Very nice. Y'all just need to build a whole lot more clubs or acquire a whole lot more so you can keep upping that number.
You're absolutely right. Our occupancy is telling us the same thing, and I think Zach and the family have really had an enjoyable experience doing a ground up build like they did with Grable. When you acquire a club, you acquire a membership base that's not used to a national membership that is possibly taking over their 8 a.m. tea time every Saturday morning that they've had for 25 years. And so, you know, and we love those folks. They come on board. They typically enjoy us as well. But with a ground up builds, it's really from day one of opening, it's available to all of our national membership and available for them to come experience for the first time. And it's a lot of fun. We really enjoy that process.
Jonathan, I wanted to go back to something where you were asking about, like, what does it look like for nonprofits year over year, or the relationship aspect. And something that I take a lot of pride in is, and the language I use is, we want to be an extension of their fundraising team, of their development team. And, I think a lot of these foundations and community foundations or whatnot it can look and feel kind of transactional, where, hey, we give you this thing and you auction it off, or we give you this grant and then we talk to you next year or something like that. And I know the way that I operate is I want to be available to have conversations with you as a team, strategize on how this can be most effective for the style of fundraising that they do, but then also to have those conversations with their donors so that we can better describe and explain what our foundation is doing, what the Dormie Network's all about, and how this is coming back to support the mission and the organization that they care about. And so, it's really fun to develop those relationships and have those ongoing conversation. And Brian's seen the longevity even more than I have, but, we talk to a lot of organizations and not everybody's sees us and believes us that we actually say we're going to do that. But the ones that do and are willing to have those ongoing conversations, they're the ones that end up having the most success with the amount of funds they can raise. And, Robbie, it's cool to see the Restoration Club hat. That's an example.
I wore that for you guys.
Nice. Well, that's an example of an organization that we've been able to help and support. And, their leaders get it, right? Like, they get our model. They understand how to use it as kind of a tool in their toolbox when it comes to fundraising and connecting with donors. So, one of the things I love most about our leadership and just the way we operate in general is that we're given the freedom to be creative and innovative in the way that we dream up how all of these resources that we make available can be useful to the organization. So we all celebrate it together, right? Like, I celebrate with the organizations when they get to connect with a donor or grow a donation into something bigger. I remember, okay, I'll share this one story. Talked to this organization that was really small, and we were talking to them about the donation levels that it takes for their donors to qualify for our membership. And I talked about it all, and then they're like, "How, you know what? This all sounds great, but we've never come close to having a donor that's given at that level." And I was like, "Well, what if this helped you get your first one? And what's the downside? Let's give it a shot." And I'll never forget, they put it into their auction and they did a few things to connect with key folks that were coming to the event. And normally after a big event, people take the next day off to recover from the auction and do all that. I think I got a text, it must have been the first text of the day for them. And they were celebrating the fact that they had a donor that was interested, and it was the largest donation they'd ever received as an organization. And so, and that was super fun to celebrate with them. And it's a reminder for me that this can be a resource for organizations of all shapes and sizes. If the leadership and the fundraisers on their side are willing to be thoughtful and creative about how they implement it and work it into their conversations and identify the right people to talk to, can have some success.
What does the shift in creativity need to look like for you all as a foundation when you talk about moving away from the donation in kind being the main thrust to now actual cash? Like, you've got to go find that cash. So is that you all are going out and finding donors to fund your foundation? Is it naturally being done through people who are just showing up on property and just sharing that message? So where does that creativity come into play?
Yeah, my team always gives me a hard time because I say we're building the plane as we're flying it. And
Well,
typically,
welcome
we're
to
crashing
everything.
said plane as we're building
Right.
it while we're flying it. But that's what's kind of nice about having this, not a really bad plane analogy here, the runway, for the next 4 years to be able to find those funding paradigms for what we want to do. The way I envision it, because we've brought in so many individuals through our donated membership model, those folks came to us through philanthropy. And so they're philanthropic by nature. And
Mhm.
so for us to go to them and say, hey, we don't want to be your number one gift. We don't be your number two, number three. We would appreciate you investing X in what we're trying to build here to support these 4 key pillar areas. That would be one mechanism that we can pull, or a lever we can pull for funding. We also have the benefit of 7 clubs across the country that we can utilize. A lot of nonprofits, they shy away from doing golf events because it's so cost prohibitive for them to do it. I can remove a lot of that cost and be able to put on some pretty large events, and we can do it the Dormie way, where it's not going to be your traditional 7-hour trudge around a municipal course. This is going to be a high touch, high class event that's going to raise, north of $1 million. Another great way for us to be able to, grow the brand, have people who may not be members come experience what Dormie Network's all about and become interested in membership, all while trying to raise funds. And then, I've challenged the team with also coming up with, different funding mechanisms that we can focus on. And so Howie's been taking calls on things that we never knew anything about, impact investing, things that we are learning as we go as well. And then, we've also got our apparel lines, apparel partnerships, things of that nature where we can focus on building foundation branded materials where the funds are coming to what we want to do. So we've got a lot of opportunity. It's just going to be finding those right pathways and what feels, the most Dormie-esque way of doing things and making sure that we do them correctly.
Do you do you see yourself functioning as a traditional foundation? I know most foundations it's the 5%, 5 to 10% rule. Or I mean, it sounded like in your sort of shoot the moon goal, it's not just that we have $1 million a year that we could give away per location, but that we're actually putting those dollars and cents back into community organizations.
Yeah. So another thing that I think is unique about the Dormie Network Foundation, we are not paid employees of the Dormie Network Foundation. We're paid employees of Dormie Network. So
Okay.
every dollar that we receive, 100% of that goes to the organizations that
Right.
we're supporting. Now they'll take their cuts, whatever that is, and there's nothing I can do about that. But I can say honestly, if you give me $20, that $20 is going to get turned around and reinvested. And I think that gives us a little bit of advantage when we're talking to our membership and knowing that, they're making $10,000 donation. We are absolutely going to invest that 100%.
I think
So
a cool
Howie's
opportunity.
private. So I was going to say Howie's private jet. It just happens to be his own personal jet, not necessarily the foundation's.
It's a write-off. Well,
Yeah, I would
Go
like to
ahead.
say
Sorry,
I'm
Howie.
close, but I'm not. I'm not even close. Um, you just got to know somebody. Um, no, I was just going to add that, like, I think a cool opportunity for us is to partner with our members. Just like Brian was saying, to invite them into this process. They have organizations in their community that they care about. And we have the ability to connect with those organizations if they fall into our pillar focus areas. And so I think there's some cool ways that we can partner with these people and say, hey, let us help you impact your community through the things that you care about. And I love the fact that, as Brian alluded to, like, there's a good chunk of our members who are here because of their philanthropy.
Right.
And for me, that paints a really cool picture of like who's stepping foot on our properties, and makes me proud that, to represent our brand. Um, and I'll also add that the first time I ever met Brian, I was running the nonprofit Hope Kids that I talked about earlier. And I had actually come back from my first ever golf trip. I was invited to go to Pinehurst, and this is kind of a side funny story, but never been on a golf trip before, had never kept a handicap before, but I had to make one up. And I think I should have given myself probably 10 more strokes. But the last place we played on that trip was Dormie Club just outside of Pinehurst. And I realize now how unique of an experience that even was because of the way we operate, and how exclusive it is. But I remember somebody telling me when that was one of our assistant golf pros was like, hey, what do you guys do in Denver? And I'm like, oh, I run this nonprofit. He's like, we just launched a foundation last year. And he got me in touch with Brian. And I remember as a fundraiser running a nonprofit, I was blown away by the vision of the Dormie Network leadership and the foundation, for what they wanted to do. And it was completely awesome generosity, and it was aggressive. And that was unique from the experience that I had connecting with different companies and foundations. And so now, like, fast forward, I mean, that conversation happened 5 years ago almost now. To have been a part of that journey for the last 3 years has been so cool. And we're still on it. We're still on the journey. And I've always kind of like referred to myself as having an entrepreneurial spirit, and have brought that into the way that I have led nonprofits and done fundraising. And it's been a blast to get to do that and be a part of that here. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, you guys described the whole foundation piece of it, and I keep hearing experience and relationships and things like that. And from everybody that we've talked to that has been to a Dormie property, I think, like you guys mentioned too, the whole experience there, from probably on your way there to even after you leave, is above and beyond what so many golf trips or experiences are going to be like. So for those that haven't been, like Jonathan and I, to a Dormie property, like, describe that experience, like what people would be in store for.
Man, I'm happy to go if you want,
Yeah,
Brian.
go on,
Was just telling my team this morning that it feels like, I mean, I work for the organization and it still feels like I'm a kid in a candy store every single time. Or I also use the example of, originally grew up in New England, and getting to go to Fenway Park as a kid, like that feeling of walking through the tunnel and seeing the field, like that's what it feels like when you get to property. It's, um, people sometimes are like, oh, where are your courses ranked? And, they want to know all those things about our golf courses. And we're very open that that's not what Dormie Network is about. We're not about having the most nationally highest ranked courses in the nation. But you're going to get a dang good experience. And that's where we put a lot of our eggs into the basket of hospitality. So from the time it's like you said, it starts before you step foot on property. It's the concierge team that we have across the network that's helping our members customize their trips, whether that's a special dining experience, like out on the range underneath the twinkly lights, or golfer gifts that we can help set up for their guests waiting for them on their beds in their cottages, or fun games that they want to play on the course, if they're going to be there for multiple days. I mean, I hear our concierge team say often that there is not a request that they haven't heard, or that they won't entertain making happen if it's something that the members want. And Brian mentioned earlier that we have 60 beds on each property. So that means we have about 60 people on property at the most on any given day. And that in and of itself creates a unique experience. So oftentimes you're out on the property, and even if we're at full capacity, you feel like you have the place to yourself. Um, and we just have a team that's dedicated. I mean, that's what they're dedicated to. They're dedicated to making that an unforgettable experience. And, our members are making multiple trips to our different properties throughout the year, but sometimes they're guests. It's the one time for them. And oftentimes they're bringing guests that they want to grow relationships with. They want to have an unforgettable experience that will last a lifetime. And whether that's friend groups, or if they're bringing business, contacts, clients, customers, etc. I've never experienced a better golf experience. And the stories, as you've been on golf trips, those stories last a lifetime, and you come back to them over and over and over again. And it's so fun to connect with our members and our guests and rehash those experiences and those stories.
Yeah. And I think taking that, and you talk about them bringing their guests, and they're probably going to be like-minded individuals that will also be bought into the philanthropy side of what Dormie is all about. And so hopefully they then figure out how to get their organization, the nonprofits they believe in, to maybe be a part of the foundation as well. And that just continues to grow. And then, like Brian was saying, all of a sudden we're $8-10 million given away here in a few years. So
and that's what
it's
we
really,
hope.
yeah, it's really cool how, we talk about golf and people, and that's just the best part of the game. And using a tool like y'all have at your disposal with the courses in the Dormie Network, there's just a lot of good that you guys are doing with it. And so that's it's really exciting to watch. So
go ahead, Jonathan.
I was going to say, with your background of being a nonprofit, did either one of you at some point just go, this doesn't even make sense to say we're going to grow essentially a for-profit side of business by first developing the nonprofit side? Because normally you look at a company like, well, we got to get to this big before we can really focus on what we can do to help the community. But you've literally turned that business model up on top of its head. And then what's really interesting, it's almost going to be a sandwich, right? You start off with, we're going to do nonprofit to build this business. And then after we built this business, we're going to add more nonprofit on the other side of it because of that whole experience. So, like, at some point, Brian, again, you've only been out of high school for 7 years, I think you said. So, like, in your years of experience, did you kind of wonder if this could even be real or how it would even function?
Again, a great question. So, backing up, I have been out of high school for a minute. It hasn't been 6 years. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But, getting back to that first day, starting a Dormie Network and the blank screen, one thing I did was like, well, somebody else surely had to have done this. There has to be a blueprint out there. And so I went to Dr. Google and could find absolutely nothing that resembled what we wanted to do. And that's what was really unique about the opportunity, was I could build it and break it however I wanted to. And once it got teeth and we realized, okay, there's an appetite for golf. And I'll be the first to admit, we caught the wave of COVID for golf right as it was starting to take off. And the timing of the whole thing was a huge blessing. Still to this day, we are riding that wave. I don't see golf losing any of its popularity anytime soon. And so we had that ability. And we also had the unique ability of an owner who said, I'm willing to take the risk of missing out on that revenue line of dues for 12 months. He's like, and he's a gambler. He's like, I would bet dollars to donuts I can make that back up on the end. And because people fall in love with what we do, and because we do it so well, it was a safe bet for him. But to your point, it is crazy if you think about it. Like, why would you give that all away and not know what you'd get in return. But what we found was our return has been tenfold from what we did. And I always circle back. Yes, the business is thriving. We're doing great. Well, again, we have generated so much money and so much goodwill for our nonprofit partners across the country that it is a true win-win. You don't run into those every day.
I often remind myself that we aren't even yet doing what the foundation set out to do when the vision was first launched. And I think it speaks to our and Brian's leadership and Zach and the leadership team's willingness to do this, but it speaks to like, the ability to be nimble, but also creative and say, hey, this is a great plan and vision. We can't do this tomorrow or even in the next year or whatever, however long it is. But what can we do? What can we be doing to learn about these organizations, meet them, and figure out how to help them move the needle in their fundraising? And so for me, my mind is blown that we've been able to accomplish what we have in the last 5 or 6 years, or however long it's been, without even yet being at the place of doing what we set out to do.
Wow.
So I think it's a testament too of just like, when you're willing to be generous, oftentimes that comes back to you, in whatever multiple you want to, you put out there. But, which reminds me of my favorite term that Brian hears me say all the time is what I call activating generosity. And, I feel like we get to do that every single day, by educating and helping and provide resources to organizations for them to connect with their donors and raise more money. So,
Yeah. And you're doing it through a beautiful game of golf where, like you said, there are a lot of generous people out there. It's exciting, man. We're big fans of what y'all do. Places like Old Barnwell that have a mission that's bigger than the actual golf itself. So it's fun to get to chat with you guys and learn more about it. And we could keep going forever, but we do want to respect your time. So let's start shifting towards the end. And we do have a couple fun questions that we'll ask. But the first one is we want to hear the story from each of you of your most memorable golf shot.
having listened to your podcast before, I knew this was coming.
There we go.
Brian, I apologize. I should have warned you. So I could go first, give Brian a minute. So I have a couple that came to mind, but the one that I think I'll share is I was actually at Briggs Ranch, our property down in San Antonio, on the first hole. I've never had a hole in one. And again, I'm not the best golfer. But I hit a great drive. It's a par 4, difficult hole. I would say, I don't know how long it is, but I think I had like about 155 or 160 yards in, and I holed out for an eagle. So I think that's the closest thing I've ever felt to what I think a hole in one would feel like. Luckily, the fairway is elevated higher than the green, so I could see it go in, and that was a blast. So I hope to have more shots like that in my near future.
Don't we all?
Good day.
Howie left off that he had his first transfusion ever right before he took that swing as well. So a tip to the vodka gods.
There you go. And he didn't tell us what he got on number 2, so it could have all evened out really
Don't
quick.
even remember.
He just walked off.
It's the only hole I remember from that round.
Doesn't matter.
Is that
Brian, how about
because
you?
of the shot or the transfusion?
I went, my mind went blank. I think it's because of the golf shot. I'm going to say that. Yeah. Blacked out.
Oh, I have so many forgettable golf shots. Where will I begin? No, so most recently, I got to go spend some time out of Pebble Beach with the LPGA, and they were celebrating their 75th anniversary. And I did not play, but I walked the course with our foursome from Dormie Network. And we'd invited a couple of members to join us, and 2 employees were playing. And they're like, you got to hit the ball. You got to hit the ball. I was like, no, it's fine. You guys play, have fun. And so we get to 17, and it was pretty cute. They had some of the junior golfers out, and we could use one of the junior golfers' shots, or we could use our own if we wanted to. And so the juniors just piped it right up onto the green. So of course we're going to use one of theirs. And we walk up, we're 25 feet out, 17, probably one of the most iconic golf holes ever. And our pro is Andrea Lee that we were playing with that day. And everybody misses. And they're all chuckling like, "Oh, Brian, you have to hit." I'm like, "Fine, give me the putter." Haven't swung a club all day. Walk up. I think the caddies were taking side bets behind us on this. And all I hear is, "Wouldn't that be funny if he dropped this?" And it was Andrea. And so I putt, sure enough, it drops. And I just tip my cap at everybody and walk off.
Oh,
Don't
what a
ask
place
him.
to do it.
No need for a reverse mulligan on that one. You got to walk out a champion.
No,
Yep.
I couldn't have scripted it better. It was pretty funny.
That's great.
Awesome. Well, another fun thing we like to do is what we call the quick nine. So this is just be for both of you again. Hopefully easy questions for you. The first one, and we'll remove the Dormie courses because we don't want this to be the homer here. But what is the favorite course that both of you have ever played?
Tobacco Road.
It's a good one.
Mostly because of the experience. For me, golf is all about the experience, but everything from driving in and just being on property. But that's an easy answer for me.
Yeah. That's tough. I really enjoyed Dallas National. Got to play there a couple of years ago and had a great time.
That's great. I do want to ask though, like if you guys were telling somebody who's never been to a Dormie property before, which one to go to first, what would y'all say?
Oh, which one? I've never heard it asked that way. I thought you were just going to ask which one's our
What's your
favorite.
favorite?
Which one would you go to first?
Probably the closest in proximity. Just
Depends on the time of year,
out.
but I would lean towards Briggs Ranch. I think the courses is receiving. It receives everybody well for the most part. But the team down there is dynamite. They're fantastic. And for me personally, again, everyone's different, but I literally think my shoulders drop 2 inches every time I step foot on that property. Just feel relaxed and at home, welcomed. But that's what I would say.
Yeah, Howie took mine, but very, very close second would be Dormie Club in Pinehurst. I think it's playable. I'm a high handicap. I get around perfectly fine and have a great time every time I play there.
Yeah. Well, Jonathan, we need to make a trip to San Antonio then for sure.
Or Pinehurst.
That's the area in Texas, right?
Yeah, just outside of San Antonio.
Or Pinehurst. Yeah, we could drive to that one a little easier.
On the high handicap here still, buddy. Easy.
Yeah. All right. What course is at the top of your bucket list?
I just talked to somebody about this.
Huh?
I just talked to Mike about this from our team. Old Sandwich. It's top of mind. Simply because I think it's the most BA name and logo in golf.
I think I'm just going to go with the first one that comes to mind. It's up there. And you already mentioned it, but I think Old Barnwell.
Yeah. It's a special place.
Yeah. Mostly because I'm curious, I get, Nick and I have had some conversations and mostly just about like, what are we both trying to do through philanthropy with this gift and this resource that we have? So it'd be really fun. Yeah. I'd love to get there.
Come on down. I got a place you can stay.
All right.
All right. What is your favorite course that no one knows about?
Not allowed to talk about it.
Oh, that's a good one, Brian. That's a good answer.
We have another property in network that is not used by most of the network, which is
that no one knows about. So it's perfect.
That no one knows about. It's a hidden gem, and it's amazing.
Nice.
Man, now I want to be a member just so I can, like, what's the secret handshake to get in there? Golly.
Very nice. All right. So who would be in your dream foursome?
Besides me, Howell.
Hey, just be the four of us. That sounds fun.
That'd be a good foursome. Because I didn't start playing golf until later, I think my grandfather, I think would be, he was my dad plays a bit of golf, but my grandfather was really into it. And I wasn't, I think that would be fun to connect with him on that. So he would be one. Another person that comes to mind is Ted Scott.
That'd be fun.
And my son, my 11-year-old son.
Nice.
It's a good group.
How about you, Brian?
Oh, that's a tough question. I've got to meet a lot of really cool, unique individual humans in this crazy job that I have. And so I have to say Ernie Els because my wife is secretly in love with him, and she would want that to happen. I'd probably have to take both my daughters. So I've got a 17-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old daughter. They both love golf, and they're like me. They're just not good, but they just have so much fun playing. Man, I don't know who that fourth would be. Howie. Probably my grandpa as well. My mom's dad played every day up until he was not able to play anymore. And
Wow.
whenever I went to their house, golf was on TV. It's all he talked about. He loved, everything about Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus. It's all we talked about. And so it would be great to been able to spend some time on course with him.
Well, we'll just stack those two groups back to back and let you
Yeah.
guys have the course for the day.
Love that.
Yep.
All right. What is your favorite snack at the turn?
Oh, it's got to be the tacos at Briggs Ranch. Taco truck.
We're going to
Now you're talking
Briggs
to
Ranch
Johnson's
now.
love
Let's
language.
go. Let me check flights.
Mine is lame. I've become an Uncrustables fiend at the time.
They're
love
incredible. They're a great golf snack. All right. So we know Dormie has an incredible logo, but we got to ask what your favorite golf logo is.
Mm.
And Brian, you mentioned the old sandwich logo, but
That's pretty cool.
what else you got?
And we can't say any of the individual Dormie Club logos, I'm guessing.
You can do
say
whatever you want.
Gray Bull's got a pretty good logo.
Gray Bull's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But if I'm going outside of the network, the first one that comes to mind is Tree Farm. Also, so hit that up when I get to Old Barnwell.
I was going to say, Howie's just trying to get himself an I-20 special up and down South Carolina.
Come on.
I'm picking up that trend, Howie. We need to look at South Carolina for property. Oh man. I really don't know. I love Gray Bull. I think it's a sweet logo.
We can go with that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go with it.
Well, I love it. I love it.
All right. In your history of being around golf, what is your favorite golf shop purchase of all time?
Wait a minute. Oh, sorry. Got some dogs barking. Man, I haven't purchased too many things outside of Dormie Pro Shop. I'm thinking, let's see if this is supposed to be quick fire. Okay. Our Dormie properties tend to have a stuffed animal kind of available for purchase representing something about the course. And it's been really fun to collect those for my kids. So
That's really cool.
That's the first thing that comes
That's
to
pretty
mind.
That's
'Cause
something unique, man. You know, the family goes on the golf trip, they bring something back for the kids. That's really cool.
Yep. I can't decide between the 7,000 hats I've purchased. So,
All right, Brian, you got something?
Yeah. So my father-in-law and I were at one of our clubs and in the pro shop, and he was checking out everything, and he saw a leather duffel that he fell in love with. Or it was like an oiled canvas duffel. He's like, "Oh, this is really cool." And he looked at the price. He's like, "Nope, not happening." And I kind of tucked it away. And for Christmas that year, I picked it up for him, and he was pretty grateful after he got home.
that's awesome.
That's really awesome. All right. Next question. And this is kind of open ended, so it could be whatever direction you want to take it. What is the one thing golfers should do?
I'll go.
What's that?
He said, "I can go if you want."
Go
Yeah,
for
yeah,
it.
yeah. Oh, yeah. If you're ready.
I I truly think, because there is such a good marriage between philanthropy and golf, that every golfer should have at least one nonprofit that they support.
Love it.
Like that.
Great.
I'm gonna say, like, focus on the experience. So don't get caught up in I don't know, if the course is in good enough shape, or if you scored well enough or anything like that. But like, what can you take away from an experiential standpoint? And for me, that ties in with, like, who you're with as well. So
Yeah, I completely agree. It doesn't matter about the score or, like you said, conditions or whatever, but you're getting to spend hopefully 4-ish hours with some good people out on a good spot.
Yep.
yeah.
All right, Jonathan,
All right.
finish us up here.
Last question. Finish this sentence. The best part of golf is?
The hats. And I say that only because I would have said the experience, but I feel like I just talked about that. But
Jonathan and I are huge golf hat collectors as well, so
nice.
we appreciate that
My
answer.
people.
Yeah.
There's a number of hats strewn about. Yes.
And I would say just the 4+ hours being dedicated to being outside, it revives my soul every time.
Yeah. Well, guys, this has been a lot of fun. We really appreciate y'all taking some time to tell us more about the foundation and everything you're doing. Brian, tell everybody that's listening or watching this thing where they can go to find out more information about the Dormie Network Foundation.
Yeah, you can visit either www.dormienetwork.com, or you can go directly to the foundation at dormienetworkfoundation.org.
Perfect. Well, we'll be sure to tag, put all the links in our show notes and stuff for this. Howie, thank you again for helping to coordinate this. It's been a joy to get to hear what you guys do with the foundation, how y'all are helping so many nonprofits all over the U.S. through the game of golf. So, guys, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate you having us on.
Absolutely. Well, for Brian and Howie and Jonathan, this is Robbie. Y'all been listening to another episode of the Whole Story Podcast.